Mr. Coral, please confirm the recording has been started.
You're good to go.
It is now 10:32 a.m. I would like to call this meeting of the WIFA Board with a roll call for members' attendance. Let's see, David Beckham.
Present.
Ted Cook.
Here.
Buchanan Davis.
Here.
Patrice Horseman. Richard Lunt.
Present.
Sue Montgomery.
Here.
Tim Tomier.
Here.
Jonathan Lyons. Pete Kim is here. Quorum is confirmed. Now calling on non-voting members, Tom Bushatsky, Ray DeCiccio, Gail Griffin, Lauren Kuby.
Here.
Thank you. Karen Peters, Robin Said, TJ Shope, Stephanie Stahl-Hamilton, and Sandra Watson. Roll call is complete. For the record, please remember to identify yourself when making a motion or requesting to speak. Please ensure you are unmuted for any votes, and for those in the room, please remember to leave the microphones on the table for sound quality purposes. In addition, if any board member wishes to depart the meeting at any time, please announce your departure for our recorded meeting minutes. Agenda item 2, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Has WIFA staff received any disclosures?
Good morning, Justice Kelly, General Counsel. No disclosures have been submitted for today's meeting. Thank you.
Agenda item number, if any member would like to identify or disclose conflicts, right, they may do so at this time. Agenda item 3, Director's Report, including legislative and database replacement updates. Director McGuire, please lead the discussion.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman, and appreciate you being able to step in on behalf of Chairman Lyons today. I've got a pretty extensive director's report, so I apologize in advance, but there's a lot of exciting stuff to cover, so we'll get right to it. If you could go to the next slide, please. I wanted to announce, as is our custom, that on April 22nd, 2025, WIFA issued amendment number 7 to the long-term water augmentation solicitation for procurement. The amendment made mostly clerical and administrative changes, but I did want to draw the board and the public's attention to the schedule change made in the amendment, which included adding a second round of one-on-one meetings with qualified proposers. Given the second round of meetings, the date for offer issuance has been extended to August 13th, 2025, at which time WIFA will release the names of teams who submit offers under the solicitation. And under this timeline, notice of recommendation to award is scheduled to occur in late October, October 24th. As you know as well on the agenda, a potential amendment will also be discussed later on in the agenda for today. Do board members have any questions about amendment number 7? Excellent. So at this time, if you could go to the next slide, I will be turning over the microphone to Catherine Dickert. We've previously talked with this board about the need for WIFA to modernize our financial database. We lovingly call it LGTS, the Loans and Grants Tracking Software. We've come to you with this information before because this is and will continue to be a significant part of our programmatic and budgetary needs into the foreseeable future. But I wanted to provide a progress update on this endeavor because we do have a lot of exciting progress to share. So I've invited our project manager, Catherine Dickert, to share that quick update. She has joined us virtually and I do see her online. So I think we're ready to go. Catherine, I will let you take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Director McGuire, for the introduction. So this project we have named Project H2 Optimize, in abbreviation, it's Project H2O. And it addresses the problem statement that WIFA has been facing significant challenges due to their outdated systems. So for example, the current EAPS application, it lacks the ability to support additional programs, while the 20-year-old Access database used for accounting, loan grant management, and admin operations also has limitations in expanding functionality. Project application data is currently fragmented across 2 independent systems, and that causes limited integration with AZ360, leading to manual data entry, inefficiencies, and reporting complications, such as duplicate efforts, data inconsistencies, compliance risks, and decision-making. Additionally, the system lacks robust reporting features, contract management, and processing workflows. So that means borrowers have minimal access to critical loan information, including status, payment history, disbursement requests, and payoff details. And this further reduces transparency and efficiency. So for the solution, this project proposes a modernization effort that will establish a centralized platform for seamless data management, automation of project workflows, and enhanced borrower grantee accessibility. And just to highlight a few of the bullet points, the new system will enhance efficiency by reducing manual data entry and streamline processes across financial and operational functions. It will improve accessibility by offering the borrowers real-time access to loan status, payment history, disbursement requests, and other critical financial information. It will strengthen integration, ensuring that compatibility with AZ360 and the state's accounting infrastructure for improved data continuity. It will increase transparency, providing comprehensive reporting tools and workflow automation to support compliance and informed decision-making. And it will also support our future growth. So it'll accommodate additional programs like the Water Conservation Grant Fund and the Water Supply Development Revolving Fund. And that will position WIFA for long-term success. The project schedule, we did kick off the project with the initiation phase back in February. We are currently in our planning phase, which is scheduled to complete by the end of June, which will move us right into our implementation starting July 1 and running through currently estimated the end of May. And that's all I have for you guys.
Wow. Okay, any questions?
Did I hear that right? July 1 to end of May?
Did I hear that right? July 1 to end of May?
July 1 of 2025, yes, to end of May next year. Correct, 2026.
That seems like a long time. What can you talk about a little bit about
Yeah.
what is the what are the major milestones inside of there requiring such an 11-month implementation period?
Yeah, we do have actually quite a bit. Let me go to our project schedule here. Our implementation plan. Okay. So we have within execution, obviously we have the environment management, which is setting up the new environment to support this new solution. There is additional business process analysis. So making sure that we are reviewing our current processes and making sure that they are the most efficient. And so just for our environment setup and our business process analysis, that runs us from July 1 into the end of August. So that'll be those first 2 months of setting up the environment and confirming our processes. We'll then go into additional configuration and interface development that will run us through the end of the year. And then from within that, it'll include our development and customization of reports, our data migration. It will include our testing, our train the trainer, our UAT, our end user training. Our actual deployment, our production go live right now is scheduled for March. So that probably makes a little bit more sense when we talk about the schedule. We have the additional time to close out the project for when it comes to reporting with asset and from the internal side closeout. But our actual go live is currently scheduled for March. Does that help?
It gives us more information, yes.
Okay.
In terms of the, if we wanted to take a deeper look at this, what would that look like?
We could absolutely provide that for you in a future board meeting if you would like to do that, more of a deep dive into what the need for the change is and the need for the upgrade, what the upgrade looks like and what our ideas are. We are still very much in preliminary phases, so I don't know whether next month is the right time for that, but I would defer to Garrett and Catherine on that in terms of when the most optimal time to give you a better idea of the full functionality and full benefit of the project would be.
Well, let's put it this way. The this system is basically the core operating system for the group, right? This is where you figure out who owes money to where. And that's kind of important for us. So I get it. That's super important. I didn't hear how much this would cost. And I didn't, and, so that is going to be obviously a very important question. And, what's that as a percentage of the budget? It's worth spending on for sure, but, I think it just is, but if it's going to be a big thing, and I mean, not for nothing, I've built systems like these before. So, that's when I kind of thought the 11-month implementation timeline seems a little long for this type. It will very much depend upon like how much is customized versus how much is going to be
Right.
off the shelf. But
Mhm.
I'd like to take a little bit more of a deep dive on this, just to make sure that we're getting exactly what we want.
Absolutely. So what we can do, Chairman Kim, is we can look at adding this to a future agenda item or providing individual board member updates as necessary or as helpful, and then determining from there when the right time to put this on a future agenda would be. Garrett, is there anything you want to add? And I know Denise also has a budget update forthcoming where we'll have, I don't know if we have a line item. I know we don't have a line items, but we are still working on some of those budget estimates as well because we are still finalizing, waiting on scope of work from the actual vendor.
Yeah, I think it's probably the latter. To be
Yeah.
to be very, very clear, right? This a critical system. I know it's broken. I know we got to fix it. Let's just make sure we're putting in the right one.
That's right.
Okay.
And I'd be
Mhm.
more than happy to
Absolutely.
give a deep dive of the years of work and different solutions and everything that's gone into this. This is not the first time that you guys are hearing about it. We're prepping you for the budget conversation that's going to come with it. But outside of a director's report, when it's more appropriate on a future agenda, I'd be happy to give you a full walkthrough or in a one-on-one meeting.
All right. What's next?
All right. Thanks, Catherine, very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Next up, I'm about to make an introduction that I don't think anybody is happier than me to make because, and it's someone I don't think really needs much of an introduction to many of you, but late last month, Ben Alternator officially joined the WIFA team as our new Assistant Director for External Affairs, which means we're officially fully staffed again. And there's no better time for us, I think, to be running on all cylinders. Ben joins us with an extensive resume in state agency policy management. Most recently, he was the Chief Legislative Liaison at the Arizona Department of Water Resources. So once again, sorry, Tom, we just keep poaching your people, but they're really good people, and so we're happy to have them. I will let Ben share a few words if he wants to do so, and then turn it to him for his first legislative update.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Director McGuire. Appreciate it. Appreciate the introduction. Excited to work with the board. It's nice to be part of an organization that's on the solutions side, and their horizon is a longer view than just years that end in even numbers. So looking forward to working with the board and the great team here at WIFA. With respect to a legislative update, happy to report that this measure, HCR 2016, the reinstatement of WIFA monies, was adopted by the legislature and was transmitted to the Secretary of State's office. As a reminder, this serves as a sense of the legislature and also a reminder to our stakeholders that the legislature remains committed to WIFA funding and our organization. I struggled with what to say on state and federal budget outlook. I don't know that there's really that much to share. The legislature is now in the phase where they come in and out, depending on what negotiations look like between the several chambers and the executive. So we sit on the edge of our seat waiting to see what that looks like. And our team is monitoring that. On the federal side, again, it's going to be critical that we fully leverage our current federal allocations while preparing for potential changes. Even late last night, continues to remain really fluid in the House. The Rules Committee met, I think their meetings kicked off at 1 a.m. There's still quite a bit of daylight between kind of both factions on the majority side. We should know later today if they're even going to have a floor vote on this reconciliation package that's potentially moving. So more to report there, but suffice to say that we really don't know what's going on both at the state and the federal at this point. Look for updates. We'll be sending out those weekly updates and continue to add to those, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or hear anything.
Well, thanks, Ben. I appreciate that. Welcome to the team. And if you go to the next slide, we're going to start out real strong. Actually, Sue has her hand up. Sorry, Sue. Is that?
Yeah, just a question for Ben, looking at the president's budget, where are our SRFs standing right now in terms of funding?
That's a good question and a big question mark. The federal budget, I think there was a reduction in, I want to say, close to 70% out of those funds.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows if that'll be the number at the end of the day.
Sure. But it signals that the administration's priorities right now do not seem to be prioritizing our SRF funds.
I would say that's accurate.
Thank you, Ben.
All right. Anybody else? All right. So I'm going to start out real strong by embarrassing Ben right off the bat as well. So our external affairs team is highly capable. And as you will see here, there is an event that's held every year called Best of the Capitol. And as the name implies, the Capitol community comes together and they nominate and crown the best of their own in various categories, including Best Government Lobbyist. And it brings me a lot of satisfaction to announce the entirety of our external affairs team has been nominated for this position. Judah and Ben both received nominations from their peers for this award. We'll watch in great anticipation to see who takes home the title. Of course, we have no preference between the two of them, but we are really, really proud of the work that they are doing. Clearly, WIFA is well represented down at the Capitol. Really happy to have Ben on the team. Judah would be here to be blushing in front of you in person, but he's currently representing WIFA at the Water Resources Research Conference in Tucson. So out in the community, out among Arizona, making sure that everybody knows what WIFA is doing and how well we're doing it. So congratulations. We will report back after the event and let you know how it went, but very happy to see those names on that list.
Congratulations.
Yep, thank you.
All right, last but not least, the Yuma County Improvement District. There's some members of them here with us today, and we're here for a very special recognition. Every year, the EPA accepts nominations for outstanding drinking water SRF programs for recognition through their Aquarius Award. This program highlights projects with exceptional success in a variety of areas, including community engagement and creative solutions. And I am thrilled to announce that this year, one of our own Arizona communities received an honorable mention through this national awards program. This year, WIFA nominated the Yuma County Improvement District for this award for their storage tank project in Tacna, Arizona. Tacna's water system has 135 connections and serves 345 people. In addition to being a designated colonia, Tacna is also a disadvantaged community with a median household income of less than 50% of the state's MHI. To address arsenic contamination within the water system, the Yuma County Improvement District installed a 150,000-gallon storage tank as part of a new water treatment and distribution system that replaced the previous facility, which was actually deemed unfeasible to habitate. So a pretty important project here for Tacna. In addition to playing a part in the arsenic remediation necessary to make that water supply actually safe for consumption, the new storage tank is going to help reduce cost, improve delivery processes, and standardize and improve quality to the customers and households in Tacna. This project was a critical piece of a larger arsenic remediation plan that was necessary to protect public health from an unsafe source of drinking water. And if the project itself wasn't impressive enough, what really stood out to us was how the community came together to support it. This project wouldn't have been possible if it hadn't been for motivated members like the folks who are here with us today, who were ready and willing to form a brand new district, the Yuma County Improvement District, to allow them to pursue this funding from WIFA. They saw that opportunity, they did what was necessary to take advantage of it, and then also allowed them to pursue funding from USDA and community development block grants, really being innovative and creative and proactive in figuring out how to do this and how to fix the problem that their community faced. So I'm really excited to have with us today Rachel Stallworth, the Improvement District Coordinator, and Diana Velas, the Community Planning Director. We have a certificate to present you with, so if you want to come up to the podium, I will have Chairman Kim come up, present that certificate. We'll give you a quick opportunity to say a few words if you would desire, get a quick photo, and just recognize you for all of your efforts and your work. So let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you for having us. Vice Chairman Kim, directors of the board.
Switch
thank
that
you
mic
so
on
much.
real quick.
Can you hear me?
I think the mic needs to be on, yep.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm Rachel Stallworth, Improvement Districts for Yuma County. Diana Velos, Community Planning Director for Yuma County. And I can't tell you how honored and humbled we are that you're giving us this award. This is, I can tell you, water is running at TACNA right now. Our meeting was yesterday, and we've had no issues to date. And we don't plan on having any issues, but we're prepared to address them as they arise or whatever. This has been a project that's been in the process for 10 years. We put the district together and then bid it out, and we have a wonderful contractor and a wonderful group of people that we work with. It's a great community that we love working with. So thank you so much for this honor. We look forward to seeing you in Yuma County
Great.
sometime in June, I hope. So thank you, Diana.
Congratulations.
Oh.
That's a good external. Yeah,
If you guys want to get up from the horseshoe, you can,
Oh, yeah. Go right.
go around the horseshoe, so it's a more decent photo.
Make sure Sue and I are on camera.
Well, particularly Tim, because he's so good looking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you so much.
And Mr. Chairman, that is the end of my filibuster of a director's report.
Well done, as usual. Agenda item number 4, fiscal year 2025 WIFA admin budgets. Denise Olson will lead the discussion.
Well, thank you. The big sigh.
It's not a big sigh, it's just, I'm just thinking about all the different things that you have to do every day. I'm like giving a sigh on your behalf in sympathy.
Thank you. So if we can go to the next slide. Whoever's doing that, thank you. So just to remind the board, in December, we approved a revised budget of 6.9 million. The revisions to the budget included things for staff augmentation, which increased by about 200,000, higher than anticipated moving costs for about 321,000. And the main event was the acceleration of the long-term water augmentation solicitation and contract development, which we estimate to be an additional 400,000. Luckily, if you look at our expenditures through April, we're trending very close to the budget, and overall we're at 75.6%, and our target, if we were spending in a linear fashion, would be 83.3%. In total, we'll be slightly under budget at the end of the fiscal year. Jane and myself are monitoring it daily almost at this point, but we will be under budget. There will be variances within the categories. So if I can direct you to professional and outside services, this is where all of our consultants are, all of our legal fees, project managers, business analysts that are working on our system replacement. That's where those costs are showing up. So we anticipate that that'll be higher than what we're showing, but we will have offsets in other categories, including equipment and other operating expenditures. And that is the categories where we had the system replacement budgeted. So overall, though, we think we're going to be under budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? For the, I've got a couple. So in terms of, for the line items that have the biggest increases, are those pull forwards or are those actual increases in size?
Right. So as I mentioned, when we redid the budget in December, we identified at least 400,000 that was related to pull forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or pull back. I don't know however you want to
Yeah,
describe it, because we accelerated the long-term water augmentation project solicitation and a contract development.
Okay.
But there were some costs that were pulled from the previous, so it's almost a sandwich effect in this fiscal year with the system replacement costs.
You used some pull forwards, you said you had some that were delayed, and
Correct.
you had some that were increased.
So both directions, right?
So all in all, still trending at or around budget.
Correct.
And after that, it's just about sausage making. It's always a little bit. messy.
Correct.
All
And
right.
monitoring it.
Okay.
On the next slide, if we could just go to the next slide, I just want to point out to the board, we were very thankful because if you remember in January, we also passed a resolution that allowed us to have admin costs associated with our water conservation grant fund. Today, we've spent about 78,000. Hopefully, we'll get it up to about 100,000, but that's making our allocation of admin cost a little bit more accurate. And so you can see the percentages amongst the different programs, and some of it's water conservation, but a lot of it is hitting our long-term water augmentation fund, which is what it should be doing at this point in time.
Right.
So then the next slide is a little foreshadowing. Next month, we'll be presenting the fiscal year 26 budget. It's going to look a lot different than the previous budgets that we've seen. We're just starting to get full blown into this long-term water augmentation project. And we also have the system implementation project at the same time. So we're going to be seeing different line items that we haven't seen in the past related to legal consulting costs for the base contract and developing the task orders. We're also going to be looking at the task orders themselves for those base contracts. In addition to that, we're going to be looking at off-taker arrangements and agreements and maybe some financial advisement on those areas. And then, of course, we got the technical advisors continuing to help us with our procurement process. Then in addition to that, we do have a possible bond sale cost that will be a line item. And we are spending a little bit more money on some of our grant areas. So we may be doing single audits, specifically possibly a drinking water and possibly conservation. So the budget is going to look a little bit different. So just giving the board some heads up on that, and more to come in the next meeting.
Okay, any questions? Awesome, moving on. Agenda item number 5, potential bond sales for SRFs. Without the big side this time, Denise Olson will lead the discussion.
So next slide. Ben covered some of this. We're monitoring the federal activities. Maybe we'll have some information today as the big, beautiful bill is being contemplated in the House. Right now, tax exempt financing is not included. So right now it is safe. It's not even in discussions as far as we know. However, this is a multiple step process, and so this could be inserted at any time. So we're holding our breath. I did put a bullet on here to address a question that Sue brought up. Right now, what we're looking at, both Lindsay and I, is on the SRF funds, we have gotten some communication from EPA, and we think that funding levels for fiscal year 2026 are very similar to what we've seen in the past. So we're going to assume that for that fiscal year, but we'll probably assume major decreases going into the future in the financial plan. We'll let you know if we change our minds on that or if we get more information. The other thing I just want to bring up, and Ben also had this in his report to the board, his weekly report, but we did have Moody's announce a downgrade of the U.S. credit. So the only reason why I bring this up is it does put a highlight on the deficit. And so that may become part of the topic in the budget conversations, which means they may be reaching for things to reduce that budget deficit in the future, which puts the tax exempt financing question back on the table somewhat. So I just wanted to bring that up, as there is a lot of conversation and eyes on the potential deficit related to the big, beautiful bill. So more to come on that, and we're monitoring it as we go. And then next slide. So one thing that we've done is I wanted to go out to just a couple of our underwriters and just get some feedback from them on, do we have the right approach here? What do you think we should do? And just some possible ideas. What they came back with was generally they think that the tax exemption will stay in place because it's vital to our infrastructure in the United States. However, they think it's prudent to be careful that it's always a possibility that this will creep into the budget. They also said that although WIFA has a strong position, it's very prudent to prepare an on-the-shelf deal. Now, this is something other entities do where they prepare a bond sale and they just put it on the shelf and kind of watch the market and pull it off the shelf when the timing or the opportunity arises, right? So this is a common, not common, but this is a practice that is done by other entities. If eliminated, the general consensus is this would take place or be effective at the beginning of the calendar year. So one would think, okay, that gives us more time. But they also said, and as I've mentioned before, the market for municipals is prime in July and August. So that is the best time for us to sell bonds. There's demand for those municipal bond sales. So that's when you typically see the best rates. So that was validated by the underwriters. So what we're doing right now is we're continuing, Scott and I are developing our master portfolio. This is something we would do regardless, so it's not money that's being wasted. But we are working on our preliminary official statement, and we've also have gotten some various ideas of financing options from the underwriters that we're having our bond counsel look through, because we want to make sure that those financing ideas will withstand if tax exempt financing goes away and are within the state law. We've typically done fixed rate debt for a period of years. Can we do a variable / fixed rate debt? Is that allowable within our state statute? So we're looking into that. And then we'll continue to monitor federal activities. Next slide. So Chelsea and I were trying to, and this is a work in progress.
Do not hold us to this, but.
And we're going to put some more around it, but it's like, how do you crawl into my mind and see what I'm thinking here? So if, sitting where we're at, if tax exempt is eliminated in the budget that comes out of the House, which is highly unlikely.
Yeah.
But if it gets put in there, I'm going to go. I mean, I'm going to start engaging underwriters and I'll start engaging rating agencies. The other thing that I'm watching very carefully, and this gets very complicated and there's a lot of factors, but we're also monitoring the rates. Right now, I look today and the rates are going up, but right now it's 3.21, I believe, for a 20-year AAA credit. If those rates start turning and we see a trend and they hit 4, we may start kind of slowly gearing up. It wouldn't be a quick one, but it would be slowly gearing up because we may see rates get to a point where it may be advantageous for us. So we're also monitoring that. Now rates are, like I said, there's a lot of other variables surrounding that concept, but it is an area where we're like, when it hits 4, I'll start picking up the phone with the financial advisor and the underwriters and start really looking at how we might proceed. So those are kind of where we're at. There's other factors, but just putting some ideas out there so the board understands where I'm at. So if you monitor the market and you see one of those two things happening, we may be calling or engaging the board in further discussions.
And I will note as well that the resolution passed by this board at the last meeting gives staff full authorization to do any of these combinations. We don't need to come back to you for approval for Denise to start doing all of these things. Obviously, however, we'll keep you in the loop. And so if we do feel like we need your feedback, we need your input, that may be when we actually call you formally in to have that public meeting and have that discussion. However, we are fully equipped right now to do anything that we've talked about. So you all have given us those tools. We appreciate that. So really just be on the lookout for communication more than anything else.
Questions, comments? I like it. Generally speaking, I mean, basically what you're saying is we're going to monitor a very complex situation and do what makes sense, right? If the money's cheap, let's go borrow it. If it looks like the tax exemption is going to go away, then let's go borrow it while it's still there, right? And all of that being prepared and ready to act costs a little bit of money, right? And so we're spending those things, but it's but we, as we've already noted, we've given you that authority already, and so we appreciate the update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6, fiscal year 2023 EPA Performance Evaluation Report for Arizona's State Revolving Fund Programs. Lindsay Jones will lead the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will be brief, but we do have the full report included in the board materials. Every year EPA comes out and does a review of our SRF programs. We just recently got our report back for the state fiscal year 2023. Overall, a really good report back from them. They noted us being in compliance with all of the grant requirements as well as the various program requirements, and noted that we had a very strong year with over 65 million in clean water loans and over 103 million in drinking water loans executed. They did note that we have a slow drawdown of the clean water funds, which is something that we've been aware of. Denise has been reporting on, and it's something that we have implemented that revised policy to ensure projects are ready to proceed prior to board approval, which we're hoping really shortens that time frame for when the executed loans start drawing the funds. So it's something we expect to continue to improve and something we're continuing to keep an eye on. But overall, definitely a good report back from EPA, and we're expecting them in a few weeks for our SFY 24 review. So continuing on, but happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions, comments?
I read the letter from the EPA, so.
All right. Moving on, we will now begin consideration of items on our regular agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak on a regular agenda item may request to speak prior to the chairman opening discussions on that item. For instructions on how to submit a speaker's card, please refer to the notes on proceedings at the end of today's meeting agenda. Agenda item number 7, long-term water augmentation solicitation for procurement, possible amendments. Joe Satelli will lead the discussion.
Thank you, Chairman. When the board approved the solicitation for procurement, the board also passed a resolution authorizing WIFA's director to approve and issue amendments to the solicitation as necessary. WIFA staff, however, committed to bringing significant substantive amendments for review by the committee and board. After the last round of questions and answers from qualified teams, staff determined that the committee and board input might be required on a potential amendment. So in a meeting earlier today, staff presented these issues to the Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee. And this board has also been presented confidentially with a red line draft of a potential amendment for review prior to the board meeting. I will turn the time over briefly to Chairman Ted Cook to give us a brief update from the committee.
Thank you. During the executive session that the Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee held earlier today, the committee had a chance to review certain sections of the solicitation, including those governing offer submittal requirements and external communication during the procurement process. The committee provided feedback and expects staff will draft an amendment consistent with the direction provided. As Director McGuire is already authorized by the board resolution 2025-035 to issue amendments, the committee did not need to approve specific language. Instead, the committee recommended that the WIFA board direct staff to issue an amendment to the solicitation for procurement consistent with the feedback provided by the committee in executive session. I would note too, for the members of the board who are not on the committee, and as Mr. Satelli just mentioned, that there was a confidential draft language that was sent out to the board for review. The suggestions by the committee and the direction of the staff did not conform exactly with what the staff brought, but we will all have a chance to see, assuming that the board follows the recommendation from the committee, a chance to see that amendment language relatively shortly. And I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair, if you want one.
Yep. Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
In that case, when do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I recommend pursuant to the Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee's recommendation that the WIFA board direct staff to issue an amendment to the solicitation for procurement consistent with the feedback provided by the committee in executive session.
Excellent. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Richard Lund.
Okay. Any board member discussion? With no further discussion, we will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Okay, let's see. It is.
Down to it.
Yep.
Aye.
You're gonna be, oh, sorry, it's right here. Well, you were on the right page. It's the bottom.
Agenda item number 8, consideration of grant resolution addendum A 2025-123, City of Douglas, WC 735920225, modification to scope. Lindsay Jones, please lead the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we did prepare a resolution addendum for the city of Douglas, who was just recently approved under the most recent round of conservation grant funding. The city of Douglas had originally requested over 2.5 million to assess, design, and rehabilitate a reservoir and a pipeline, as well as design and construct a secondary storage facility. At the April Water Conservation Grant Fund Committee meeting, the city proposed to reduce the scope to limit it to only design activities and to reduce the grant amount to just over $800,000. The committee recommended approval for the resolution for the reduced scope and grant amount, and the city, or the board did approve that reduced scope and grant amount, and then the city is now proposing to change the scope to focus on the design and construction of the new transmission pipeline only, removing the design for the reservoir or secondary storage facility from the scope. The city proposes a scope change due to the existing main line being outdated and failure prone, resulting in operational challenges that they believe having it fixed would really improve the system reliability and reduce the water loss. This modification wouldn't alter the reported water savings for this application, since we had this one at 0 based on what they estimated at the time of the application, and the water savings really being unknown as they stated. And we should have grantee representatives available for any questions.
Okay. More questions for WIFA staff?
With 0 water savings, and this is really just a pipeline replacement now. It's pure replacement of one pipe, right? One main pipe.
Right.
Isn't this better for an SRF? Or maybe the Water Supply Development Fund? It just seems so inappropriate here for water.
I mean, I would say it is certainly eligible for the SRF program or water supply program. I would also say that we would anticipate there would be water savings from this, but because they estimated 0, we did not make an assumption on their behalf to try to estimate what the water savings are. But typically, if you have a very old leaky pipe and you're replacing it, we would expect some sort of water savings. We just don't have an estimate for that.
Yeah, I thought the projects we really wanted to approve in the Conservation Grant Fund were those that were innovative to reduce water, not just the replacement of infrastructure. If we adopt this, then the city of Phoenix would come with a main line down Central Avenue and say that it's going to conserve water because we have a leaky pipe. It just seems it seems like it's the wrong place for all of it.
Also, Mr. Chair, in all due fair, we can only judge, or the staff should only be able to judge what they present. And I agree with staff shouldn't be putting assumptions in there. You have to judge on the application you got. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Tim has.
Tim, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just so we're all on the same page, this is a Water Conservation Grant Fund grant that we've already awarded. Is that correct? And this would be or we've selected and awarded, and this is change of scope to that.
It seems to be an increasingly shrinking grant, but yes, 2.5 down to 8 down to.
They had originally asked for 2.5. The board approved the 800,000, and they would remain at that 800,000 amount.
Okay, all right.
With a reduced, with a change in scope.
Got it. All right. Sorry,
Yeah.
Tim, continue.
That's okay. I think in the course of our actions on the Water Conservation Grant Fund, we awarded grants with the best information at the time. And I don't want to necessarily relitigate our thinking. I know that we evolved over time to be less inclined to do grants related to basically infrastructure replacement, deferred maintenance, whatever terminology we were landing on at the time. But I'm once we've made a commitment to an awardee, I tend to want to stick with our original decision. Now here, the decision is the change in scope meaningfully different from what they originally proposed? And, a pipe plus a tank versus a pipe. I think it's all in the same category as our original determination. Just my thoughts on the matter.
Thank you, Tim. Sue?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I remember this right, originally they had a reservoir planned, and then they reduced some of that to the design part of it. But now they're just saying, we are simply going to be doing a transmission pipeline that does look a lot like deferred maintenance. And I understand what Tim said, because it is sort of within the bundle of what we originally approved. But this is looking so much more like projects that previously we did not fund. Insofar as it looks now just like a deferred maintenance line that needs to be replaced. So, I mean, I know we're going to be in a predicament on these. There's several that are sort of interesting in terms of what's happening, but I am concerned that this is just looking like some things that we previously rejected now.
Understood, Sue. Thank you very much for your comments. I do believe that we have a representative from the city of Douglas online. Perhaps is that Carl Rockwell?
Correct.
Great. Mr. Rockwell, please go ahead if you'd have any comments.
Yeah, this is Carl Rockwell. I'm the Public Works Director, City Engineer for the City of Douglas. I started in March, and this application had been had already been sent in, and it included a lot of different things, a lot of different assessments, and knowing that your funding was somewhat limited, and even the original application didn't really have any water savings in spirit with the intent of your grants. We understood that, you know, what's the most important thing we could do, and from my point of view, the most critical thing is this replacing this 60-year-old water line that has broken in the past and has disrupted water supply to the entire community in the past. The roof is in need of repair, but it can be deferred for a period of time, or it's actually in need of replacement, but we feel we can do maintenance on that. So it came down to what's the most important thing. I am new at this job, and I am new at the WIFA process. So I'm the one that changed the scope to something very simple and straightforward, which is actually not. But now we look at it, it's actually a redundancy. It's adding a parallel line to the existing line where both of them could be in operation if one or the other was out. And also, we looked at the timeline too of spending the funds, and the original grant had quite a bit of different things they were going to assess and evaluate, and it was going to be basically $1 million of doing studies and another $1.5 million of a secondary water tank. But with the reduction of the amount of the grant request and the timing of spending this money by June 2026, we decided that we would focus on the most important part of our system, and from the original grant. So what we've done, we actually have looked at purchasing pipe. We have both surveyors and engineers lined up, ready to go on design, and we've actually have talked to contractors, getting some interest in the project. And this is all in trying to be able to get the grant and then spend the funds for this very, very specific project. So that's my point of view, and if I'm not following the grant requirements exactly, I apologize for that. And and being somewhat new to your process.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. No apologies necessary. We're put into a little bit of a conundrum here because essentially what's happening is you have done a very good job at clearly articulating what you need and what you'd like to spend the money on. Unfortunately, that's not exactly what the money was supposed to be for. There are some rules and regulations around specifically what what we were trying to have these monies earmarked for, the types of projects. And as multiple board members have noted, it's that this project was approved, and then now with these changes, it's starting to stray closer and closer to things that we had disapproved in the past. So I think, is there any additional comments and questions, commentary from the board around this? Questions for Mr. Rockwell, et cetera?
Mr. Chair, I completely appreciate the sentiments shared. I think I align with Tim on this one, though. We made a decision on this, and I prefer not to relitigate it, other than noting for the record that we had a good discussion, and maybe we can look out for this, and staff can make sure as people adjust their scope, they're not adjusting their scope outside of the scope. But I think my inclination is to approve the scope change and move on. But that's just me putting my thoughts on the record.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cook?
Mr. Chair, I too find myself kind of in that space that Mr. Thomier and Mr. Davis articulated. But that being said, if, and I think it was already pretty much said by somebody else, if this project was a new project that was coming to us today, with or without a recommendation from the committee, I probably would vote against it, because it looks to me like deferred maintenance, with all due regard to the issue of many of these types of communities have nowhere else to go to do these type of things, and it's not affordable for them to raise rates or borrow money from somewhere else. So I just wanted to go on the record that I'm likely to approve this request. But if this was a new project, I would not. And any projects that bear a resemblance to this project coming to us in the future, particularly for grant monies that are simply correction of a deferred maintenance issue, particularly now that we've heard today that this will actually not replace an old pipe, but go in parallel to the old pipe, which under certain circumstances will continue to be used. So any presumed improvement in water losses is kind of diminished by that, and in some senses, I'll use the word worse. This becomes a worse justification for appropriate use of conservation grant fund monies. So I think I don't need to re-summarize what I just said. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Any other comments? It's a tough one. As I'm thinking about this, I'm troubled by the precedent that's set. Somebody can come in and propose one thing and then have it pass, and if they hadn't said those things, it wouldn't have passed, and then change it later on, and then have the preponderance of this is just the easiest path forward, to kind of keep it from getting changed. It's right where the rubber meets the road between expediency and just the absolute right and wrong on these things. Okay, tough one. May we have a motion on agenda item number 8 for grant resolution addendum A2025-123.
Mr. Chairman, given that I do believe that there are water savings and conservation benefits, I still am of the notion that we should accept the modification as proposed. So that's my motion, that we, what are we on here? 8?
Yeah.
We approve the modification to scope of the grant resolution addendum 82025-123, City of Douglas.
Motion to approve has been made. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Tim. I'll second the motion.
Tim Tomier with the
And
second.
Mr. Chairman, I will recommend a roll call vote on this, have conferred with general counsel and believe that under the statute, that does require 6 affirmative votes to approve funding. To be safe, we'll do a roll call to determine whether there are 6 affirmative votes on the scope change as well.
Read my mind. This one seems to be one that is maybe a little bit contentious. Yes, Mr. Cook.
Sure, so I have a question, I think, for the general counsel. So if the request to approve, this motion to approve the addendum or the change in scope fails, then does that mean we go back to the original approval remains in place?
Thank you. That's a great question. Yes, so, right, we have before you is a request to modify the scope and reduce the award. If that vote fails, I'm sorry, you have a request to amend the resolution, right? That was previously passed. If that scope fails, then the agreement that is currently in place would continue in that fashion, and staff could certainly engage with the City of Douglas to determine what potential options are available under the grant agreement as exists.
Follow-up question?
Please.
So then, Mr. Satelli, if that were to happen, basically the applicant or the awardee would be faced with a situation of more or less being expected to or forced to proceed with the original scope or withdraw its project in its entirety.
That is correct. The grant agreement would require either the obligation of funds or a completion of the scope of work, which was originally approved by this body.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, give me a roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chair, so I will begin the roll call. As a reminder, board members, this is a motion to approve the scope change requested. Mr. Beckham.
I'll explain my vote. First, I'm going to vote nay. A couple of reasons. One, the precedent it sets, as articulated by Mr. Kim. And second, we have 2 other funds designed for this already. This is the wrong place for it.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
I'll explain my vote. We have a shelf life as far as conservation money. There are conservation benefits to the program, and I think that the applicant is trying to do the right thing by adjusting the scope to more reasonable, maybe not realizing what they were maybe getting themselves into, and I don't want to hold them accountable, but I think it's been a productive educational experience for all of us and maybe other applicants. So with that, I vote aye.
Mr. Lunt.
And I will vote aye, and I'd like to explain my vote. First of all, we've already awarded this money, and I know they changed scope, and I hope it's duly noted that the committee does have reservations, and yet due to our commitment that we've already done, I don't want to cut the legs off of anybody, but from here on out, hopefully the committee won't find ourselves in this situation again, and these projects will go forward as they're fully intended. And so with that, I vote aye.
Ms. Montgomery.
Explain my vote. Really, it's what Mr. Lunt said. I'm going to vote yes on this, but as others have said, this is not something that I'm very comfortable voting yes on. But I did hear the counsel of Tim, and I can see how this can be something I can vote for. But I'm not super happy about when I see that there are other ways this could be funded. But we've gone this far, so aye.
Mr. Tomier.
Explain my vote. I'm also going to be an aye. And what I'll add to it is, while the scope has changed from something this board would have approved to did approve to something that would not have approved as a board, I don't think it falls outside the statute and the eligibility of the program. So with having said that and all the other reasons to proceed, I vote aye.
Ms. Horstman, Mr. Lyons, and Chairman Kim.
Explain my vote. Like I said, this is a tough one. It is always compelling for me to hear a simple explanation of what's needed and an honest assessment of, hey, we can't use the money this way and we've got to go, and we're just coming back to see if we can spend it a different way. That's compelling to me. On the other hand, this, I don't think I would have voted yes on this in the past, and I really don't like the idea of changing things on the backside. It's almost an invitation for others to do this in the future because it worked. I vote nay.
Mr. Chair, with a vote of 5 yes and 2 no, the vote did not pass the 6-vote threshold and therefore is not approved.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 9, consideration of grant resolution addendum A 2025-124 Bonneville Environmental Foundation. WC 1-003-2023, modification to scope and reduction of grant award. Lindsay Jones, please lead the discussion.
Mr. Chair, sorry, can I interrupt? So on that last vote, just to double check, I think it was already asked of Joe, but
With this failure, the earlier resolution remains in place and there's an obligation for the existing program to go forward as originally approved.
but even with the reduced number of board members here, you still have to have that 6-vote threshold.
That is my understanding.
Yes, that is correct. It's, normally it's sort of, they would say a supermajority in statute. Statute explicitly calls out the affirmative vote of at least 6 voting members present at an official meeting of the board. So that's 6-vote threshold
And
does
so that
apply.
doesn't go down because we're missing Mr. Lyons and Mr. Horstman.
Correct.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you, sir. So next up, we have agenda item 9 for the Bonneville Environmental Foundation, which was a project partnering with the city of Phoenix. This was a project previously approved for a cooling water conservation program to upgrade cooling water systems for large buildings such as hospitals. The Bonneville Environmental Foundation originally received a grant for just over $2.9 million to support this program. They have launched 2 of their projects and are in the final stages of implementation for those. However, due to some procurement issues and delays in guidance from relevant entities, including WIFA and the governor's office, they had determined to put a pause on their program development and are now believing they're going to be unable to meet the original spending timeline, and it would be unfeasible to fully draw down the grant dollars. So they are proposing to now limit the scope of work to their nearly 2 completed projects and reduce their grant amount from that $2.9 million to $554,941.53. That would also reduce their match requirement. We did include analysis regarding the water savings and what this reduction would result in for the overall water savings and the cost per acre foot. And we should have the grantee's representative available for any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Yes.
I don't necessarily think that the point that I'm about to make here applies to this specific project, but it does raise an issue for potential other rescissions or whatever you want to call them with respect to funding that may occur in the future, either in this fund or any other funds. When a cause arises for whatever reason that essentially remaining funds are being returned because the project is essentially canceled. The question arises about was an appropriate amount of value received for the expenditures that occurred. So there's roughly $500,000 of expenditures, as I understand it, on this project that have occurred, and that the awardee is expecting to be reimbursed for that. On this particular project, my understanding is that there were 2 of these cooling tower upgrades that will be completed. So there was actually some work done that is commensurate with the scope of the original project, albeit a much smaller amount of actual implementation. So I'm satisfied that the request to be reimbursed for the costs that are expended is appropriate. But it raises again the question of what about a cancellation of a project in the future where certain monies have been expended, such as even for design work, staff costs, things like that, but nothing that is essential, to the overall idea, particularly on a conservation project. Is that appropriate? It's maybe not fair to the awardee, but it's not fair to WIFA either if there's some stranded cost like that. So again, that doesn't apply to this program, but it raises, for me at least, a hereto unconsidered question about project cancellations and stranded costs. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Other board questions, comments? Hearing none. Public comments on this particular?
Any?
No? Okay, additional board discussion? Mr. Lunt?
So my understanding then, they will turn back money that was originally, some of the money that was originally awarded. This committee from the onsets was very explicit. We wanted our money be put to good use. Will other applicants that maybe can finish a project in the allotted time, will they be able to apply for the money because I don't want some money sitting there that's not being used. I think the committee was very explicit in that. We want this money out there working to save water and that's always been the sentiment of this committee. So what happens?
So Mr. Lent, you will see that later on in the agenda, we have agendized all of the tabled applications
I saw that.
from round 1. So what will happen is when and if this board approves a deobligation like this, the money, we've been allocating that to 2 different projects, the Miranda project and the Oro Valley project. We're to a point now where those projects would not be able to absorb the entirety of the proposed deobligations on the agenda. We've agendized the rest of the tabled applications again from round 1. Because they were different. The first 200 million and the 14 we treated as different notices of funding authorization. But so the short answer to your question is yes. We do have applicants that are ready and willing to take this money to get those projects off the ground and do good things with it. And those are agendized for your consideration later on in today's meeting.
And so on the agenda, they know that there's money coming available and they will do that.
That is
Okay.
correct. So, and staff will go into more detail when we get to that agenda item, but we have reached out to those applicants to explain and ask, would you actually be able to take this?
And I remembered that was on the agenda and I realized
Yep.
that we were overfunding that, but I just wanted to make sure that applicants realize.
Good.
money.
Tim Tomier, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in follow-up to Director Lunt's comments, what I appreciate about this particular request is that while we would prefer the money went to what we were hoping to get done, they've given us an opportunity to put that money back into circulation with a project that can be completed. And I've been in project management long enough to know that we're probably going to get hit with these in the last quarter of the last year of possibly spending it because everybody's way optimistic right up until they're not. So I just want to give a quick shout out to applicants. Tell us sooner rather than later, because then we can do something about it. So.
Yeah, good point.
Very good. All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, Chairman Kim,
Yep.
to be clear on this project, it's not what Mr. Cook mentioned that they're just simply trying to get reimbursed for a bunch of paperwork. This money is actually still going to a cooling tower, an integrated cooling tower that does result in reduced water use from the old traditional cooling towers, just not as big as many.
That's correct.
Okay, for the record, thanks.
Additional comments? All right. May we have a motion on agenda item number 9, grant resolution addendum A 2025-124.
Mr. Chair, this is
Sure.
Tim. I would move for approval of resolution addendum A 2025-124.
Thank you, Mr. Tomier. Seeing we have a motion, do we have a second?
So moved. David Beckham.
David Beckham, seconds. Okay, let's go ahead and move to a vote. I don't think we need a roll call vote on this one. All right. So, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on, agenda item number 10, consideration of grant resolution addendum A 2025-125, City of Goodyear, WC 3130204, modification to matching funds. Ms. Jones.
Thank you. So this one is a slightly different situation where they are not really asking to modify the scope, but the reduction in the matching funds was significant enough that we felt it prudent to bring it for the board's attention. So the City of Goodyear has an approved project for a pilot project to use EcoVap technology, partnering with the City of Phoenix, EcoVap, Palo Verde Generating Station, and Waterworks Engineering in order to reduce Palo Verde's dependence on cooling water from the 91st Avenue wastewater treatment plant. They are requesting to reduce their match, which was a little over 5.2 million originally, to just over 3.4 million due to infrastructure and space constraints at the Palo Verde, which limits the installation of 2 larger EcoVap units instead of originally 4 being planned for. The matching funds was coming from, partially coming from the EcoVap units, and they're planned to have 4. So reducing it to 2 just means the match being donated from that EcoVap units would be reduced, but the overall scope and intent of the project would still be achieved. So we did include some analysis regarding the water savings, and we should have the grantee representative for any questions the board may have.
Chairman.
Very good. Questions and comments from the boards for WIFA staff?
Yeah. I just have one, and that's, they've reduced their match from a little over 5 million, 5.25 roughly, to 3. But the minimum match is simply 750,000, so they're still significantly over their minimum match.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
So, building on Mr. Beckham's question there, I looked back at this particular application and its approval the last time, and to me, at least, I believe that even though the match was, let's say this project was overmatched compared to the minimum, $5 million versus 750,000 or whatever that number was. But that ratio was relevant, at least to me, as far as the projected savings and WIFA's share of it and the cost per acre foot and the things like that. So I'm not comfortable again with a kind of after the fact revision of an application like this. It would be more appropriate, in my opinion, for there to be a proportional reduction in the award.
Additional comments? Okay, do we have a representative from, yeah?
I believe we do.
Yep. Okay.
Ben, if you could enable mics.
Hello, this is Nicole Adamson.
Hi there.
Hi.
We'd love to hear just a little bit more color around your request here.
Okay, so I asked our engineering firm to join the call. They're, I believe they can give you the more technical conversation that you might need if it's possible to bring in John Mata,
Sure.
Waterworks engineer. I believe I can't see the participants, but I believe he's here. Potentially even Brad Burles from APS might be on the call as well.
No, Nicole, I'm here.
Hi, John.
Whenever you're ready.
All yours.
John, go ahead. Please go ahead.
So yes, when we put in the grant and the application, we were targeting 4 units to be able to compare different scenarios. And as we get into details, something got a little bit more expensive, something got more complicated to install at the Palo Verde site because of the nature of the site. So we reduced the units from 4 to 2, but we did not sacrifice any of the evaluation or research goals or what we intend to do with the results. Just from a practical standpoint, we were not able to look to construct 4 units. It doesn't change the scope or the nature of the study, if that answered the question.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the representatives? Okay, thank you for your time. Additional board discussion. Questions, comments, concerns on this? Okay. Seeing none, may we have a motion on agenda item number 10 for grant resolution addendum A 2025-125? Mr. Cook?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the grant resolution addendum. I need to make sure I got the right one here. Agenda item number 10, addendum number A 2025-125 with a modification to proportionally reduce the water conservation grant award from WIFA by in proportion to the reduction in the matching funds from the original application.
Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Tim. I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any board member discussion?
Joe, do you have sufficient clarity on that motion as to what the reduction in the award would be? So I guess actually the question could be for Mr. Cook. Are you looking at then percentage? So taking the percentage of reduction in the match and reducing the award proportionately by that percent? Okay.
Yes, we could do the calculation right here so that everybody's absolutely sure what the outcome is, but I think that arithmetic is pretty straightforward.
Okay, making sure.
That is sufficient, I think, for our purposes, Lindsay and Denise.
Okay, having a sufficiently clear motion and a second, let's go ahead and move forward to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on. Agenda item number 11, consideration of grant resolution addendum A 2025-126. City of Phoenix, WC 1-036-2023, modification to scope. There are a lot of these. Okay.
And we actually did make one slight modification to the agenda on Friday. The City of Phoenix has withdrawn that request. So we can move on to agenda item.
There are one less of these.
One more to go.
Agenda item number 12, consideration of grant resolution addendum A 2025-127. New magma irrigation, that's an awesome name. New magma irrigation and drainage district, WC 2-0902023, modification to scope and reduction of grant award. Ms. Jones, please lead the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the new magma irrigation and drainage district did receive a grant award under the first round of funding for just over $231,000 for the following purposes. So they intended to reduce irrigation water loss by minimizing spills and over deliveries. They intended to replace deteriorating infrastructure, including leaking valves and faulty meters, and then to rehabilitate their damaged canal liners and implement xeriscaping at their district headquarters. They did reach out to WIFA staff to request an amendment to their scope to propose eliminating the meter replacement portion of their project due to rapid developments in technology, making the new meters obsolete, as well as what they stated was frequent vandalism and theft of the meters. They have determined that the short-term benefits no longer justified the cost for that and have proposed reallocating portions of the grant fund to other scope components, as well as de-obligating funds from the overall award. We did include the original estimated water savings, as well as their revised estimated savings and the acre foot overall over 15 years, and the cost per acre foot changes for that. So it would be a reduction in scope and a reduction in grant dollars awarded that they are requesting. And then we should have grantee representatives for any questions.
Thank you. Board questions for WIFA staff? Mr. Cook?
I just wanted to clarify something with respect to meters. So these are not the types of meters that we have had in other types of water conservation grant applications and so forth that are basically for metering in a municipal setting. These are flow meters in canals and things like that. And although I'm dismayed by the references to vandalism and obsolescence in the near term, even if these were to be replaced, particularly and return on investment when the investment is by WIFA, not by the applicant. But that being said, I'm really not in a position to debate their judgment as far as whether or not this is a good idea to put these in. They've concluded, no, it's not. So I really can't quibble like that, but I want to make sure that we all understood these are a different kind of meter than the other meters that we've had in other projects.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. You
Thank
are
you, Mr.
correct.
Cook. Any other board comments, questions for staff? Seeing none. Do we have any requests for public comment?
There's a Bruce Salmon signed in, present.
Mr. Salmon, would you like to speak on behalf of this motion, agenda item?
Don't see anybody by that name online.
Oh, he's right here. Excellent, in person, no less.
Even better.
So I'm actually Jeff Brzee. Bruce will be speaking at next meeting, so we might have.
Can you make sure that the mic is flipped on and? Yeah, you're good.
Picking me up or?
Yeah, you're good.
Put it up a little higher and I'll try to talk loud. I'm Jeff Brzee with CEI Engineering, also with Shaw Sports Turf. Bruce Salmon actually probably be talking at the next meeting, so we might have confused the names there. Just wanted to state a little bit. Number one, we've been very benefited by what you do. As a civil engineering firm, we're nationwide, and we have a team that helps schools with their athletic facilities. So we've been designing synthetic turf fields for 25 years. Williams is one of the current schools that we're helping a lot there, and so appreciate.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think, is this for the next meeting for the turf removal project at the water supply?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and call you up during that meeting.
Okay.
This is still for the new magma meters, and so we've just got a couple of things
So
on
we
our
might have
call.
misunderstood
I
how we
think
got
so, but
ourselves
that's
on
okay.
there.
We'll make sure we call you up for the next
Yeah,
one.
we're planning on being here for both, so appreciate it.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll look forward to hearing from you next time. All right. Do we have any other opportunities for public comment?
Does not look like it, Mr. Chair.
Sorry?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Additional board discussion? All right. Hearing none, may we have a motion on agenda item number 12 for grant resolution addendum A 2025-127?
Mr. Chair, David Beckham, I move to approve grant resolution amendment addendum A 2025-127.
I would second that, Richard Lunt.
Richard Lunt with the seconds. Any board member discussion before we move to a vote? Hearing none, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstained? Motion passes. Moving on, agenda item number 13, Water Conservation Grant Fund updates. Guess who? Ms. Jones.
Well, we did have 2.6 million. Now we
more
do
now.
technically have a little bit more. So if you would allow us maybe just a 2-minute recess to make, if we would like to reallocate the money that was just from Goodyear's project.
Okay, would you like a 10-minute, 5-minute?
Or would you like to just go on to agenda development? You can do some of your presentations while they do the math, and then we can come back.
We just need to double check our math, make sure we re-obligate the correct amount.
Got it.
But-
Okay, well, why don't we just go ahead and switch up the order
Okay,
so
yeah,
that we
that
can move
works.
expeditiously. So we're moving to agenda item 14.
Yes. So we'll move to agenda item 14, which we'll probably come back to as well at the end of the meeting to do actual agenda development. But Vice Chairman Kim has a couple of special presentations and announcements to make. And so I think we provided you with a supplemental script for that. We'll roll right into that. Maybe it's a little bit unceremonious, but that way it just gives us a little more time and we don't have to rush through that at the end.
Got it. All right. I have a pair of announcements that will,
Oh. And he just walked out.
and Richard just walked out.
All right, maybe we just do
You know what?
2-minute recess.
Yeah, why don't we take a 5-minute recess and that will be good for them. So it is right now 11:58. We will reconvene in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Really trying to get you.
That was hilarious. It's like, hey, no, we're gonna do this other thing. Wait, we're not gonna do this other thing.
Yeah. Scroll through and I actually share the PowerPoint from here, so we don't have to do the quick thing, but also it's a huge nightmare.
It should be that amount plus 1039.
Yes, I did my best to show it.
This is the reduction.
Even if they had to, right?
Original order, exactly. The only thing
Thank you very much. That's your strategy. Just dress it up as something.
So how are you doing?
Anything else we should ignore them on?
Oh, yeah, still no work.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Richard.
Yeah,
So they needed some extra time. Yeah, I saw that. And I said, hey, your presentation, and then we're like, okay.
Good.
No, it's not me, Denise. It's not me.
That one's not, that one's for, I think it was an action.
That's hysterical.
I'm so sorry, but
So good.
that's funny.
All right.
So, yeah, last year when we started talking about the water supply. This part of this week. I know I need.
Yeah. Right, right. All right, well, yeah, I mean, it should go without hit, but. This is something. Without Nicholas, it's our tool one.
How am I doing?
Fantastic.
Okay.
This was not an easy meeting either. It ended up being a little tougher than I thought, so
Yeah.
not doing really well.
You?
I don't think they'll get it early.
Right, right.
Too soon.
Where's Richard? You left already.
Well, that's,
Sunsetting, he is riding off into it.
Was it low?
I'm not an expert in these things, but if he's not here, that's gonna be hard,
That's gonna
right?
be maybe even more anticlimactic than moving it up in the agenda order.
Still, just real to go to the Queen Creek, but I think it's something.
Trisha Verdette has her hand up. Can you send her an, Ben? Trisha Jerdette has her hand up. Can you send her an individual, note and make sure?
No, yeah, I know, Virgin, yeah.
It's, so they're redoing that bridge, and so every day we shut it down so they can have access.
Everyone will be excited. Right? Right. I guess I will check that.
Do you want to just go agenda item 12, then 13? Are you, you're ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
You want to do, you want to do
Let's do
13?
13. Yeah, let's go
Okay.
in order.
Okay, well, out of order. 13, then 12.
We're on 13 now. 14 is this.
Oh, got it,
Yeah,
got it, got it.
Yeah, sorry. We were saying the same thing, but not
Except I got the numbers wrong. Okay,
correct.
got
Let's
it.
just go in order of agenda. Okay.
All right,
we
let's
gotta
get
do a roll
started. Here
call.
we go. We will now call this meeting back in order following a brief recess.
I'll do a roll call just for the record.
Okay, Ms. McGuire, please call. the roll.
Absolutely. Mr. Beckham,
Present.
Mr. Cook,
Here.
Mr. Davis is not, but he'll be back in a moment. Ms. Horseman, Mr. Kim,
Here.
Mr. Lunt,
Present.
Ms. Montgomery,
Here.
Tanya,
Here, and Mr. Chair, I'll have a conflict to declare on item 13 when we call it.
Understood, sir.
and Chairman Lyons. And let the record reflect that Mr. Davis has joined us. Roll call is complete.
Very good. Agenda item 13, Water Conservation Grant Fund updates. Ms. Jones, please lead the discussion.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have updated the slide with the current amount available for reobligation to other projects. So we had, as this board knows, a reduction in fund from 2 projects on the agenda, as well as a third reduction for the city of Goodyear. We additionally had just one small deobligation from a grant that completed their project entirely and just had a little money left over. So it is something that we are certainly starting to see happen where we're having the deobligations of funds. But as it stands today, we have $3,643,502.41 available to reobligate. We had in this first round of funding for the $200 million tabled quite a few applications at the final meeting for award. So we previously, when funds were available for reobligation, had the town of Oro Valley and town of Marana had been receiving additional awards, but we did have additional projects that were tabled. We have added all of those to the agenda and have also done outreach to each of these applicants to see if 1, they were still interested in the money, and 2, if they could spend the money by the deadline. We did have a few updates for the different projects, but I will just quickly go through the list of the projects and the updates we have for them. So we have agenda item 13A for the town of Oro Valley, which was partially awarded previously and have indicated they could accept additional funds and complete the project by the deadline. Marana was in a similar situation, partially funded. They did say they were interested in the additional funds, but they did also voice a concern about the spending deadline of June of 2026. We have the city of Tucson, who has indicated they could take on these additional funds for agenda item C. Agenda item D for the U of A have indicated, yes, they could, but they would reduce the amount requested to $89,262. Agenda item E, Arizona Water has indicated they are not, would not like to be considered for consideration. So we have done a strike through for that application. Agenda item F, Lake Havasu has indicated, yes, they could spend this money. Agenda item G, El Mirage has indicated, yes, that they could. H for U of A has said, yes, that they could take on this additional funds. Wilcox additionally for I has said yes. We did have the agenda item J for Tucson Clean and Beautiful indicated yes, and that they would also be willing to accept a reduced amount by as much as half in order to spread resources farther. Agenda item K for Watershed Management Group, they indicated no there and withdrew from consideration. Agenda item L for NAU indicated yes, but with a new amount of $96,960. Agenda item M for the Maricopa County Flood Control District indicated yes, they could take on this award. And then the final two agenda items N and O for the City of Phoenix, the applicant indicated that they would like to withdraw from consideration. So quite a few updates, but in total, we would have, without the ones that have indicated they're not interested, we have $5,363,111 in tabled applications for your consideration.
Okay. So big picture is on this, we had correct me if I get any of these numbers wrong, we had about $200 million, right, in this? And then
Yes.
we've got 3.643, which is about 1.82%, right?
Mhm.
So, okay, so we're kind of getting down to like the nuts and bolts on this stuff, but, okay, so we were going to be allocating those and and these are now, staff, you've listed these in the application, in the order of votes to approve.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention that we did order the agenda based on Oro Valley and Marana being first on there just because they had previously been receiving awards, and then ordered them based on the committee vote totals for each of the different applications. So they are ranked in a priority kind of list there.
So with so we have to now reallocate 1.82% of the total funds. Is that correct?
Mhm.
All right.
Shouldn't be sure. Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
Lindsay, we had I don't recall the name of it, but it was the proposal that I think we partially funded, and it was soil amendments in agriculture. I think it was algae. I think, I'm not sure it was algae, but it was
Yeah.
soil amendments in agriculture to retain moisture so less water is needed.
Mhm.
But we partially funded that, didn't we?
We
And-
partially funded that, but our interpretation is we had two separate solicitations, one for the $200 million of funding and then a second one for the 14.
This was in round one that
Oh,
he's
I'm
talking
sorry.
about. So, this was the Myland application in round one. I think
Oh, that's it.
the
They withdrew.
difference between that is not that they withdrew, Mr. Chairman, but that the board specifically made a decision to partially fund that as opposed to tabling. We had specific direction from the board about the items listed in agenda item 13 to table for further consideration. That particular application was not included within this list of applications on which we received specific instruction. So it was handled differently, potentially at different times in different meetings, but these are the only applications which this board instructed us to table for potential funds in the event of deobligation.
We didn't reduce it because of lack of funding. We reduced it for other reasons.
I think it was lack of
I
funding.
don't recall
think
off
we
the
were-
top of my head.
Yeah, I thought it was lack of funding. I thought we got down to what was left and
But
Okay.
I don't recall the purpose or the reason
Yeah.
for not totally funding that application, but I do recall that it was not included in this list of tabled applications.
okay.
Yes,
So
Mr.
so
Cook?
be it. That's too bad.
Mr. Cook, please.
I have two questions as well. I'm not sure from looking at the agenda, what's the quantity of funding that would be necessary to top off items A and B that we have incrementally partially funded Oro Valley and Marana?
And I can do the math real quick, but it is each of them have about 1.157 million left in funding
Correct.
Okay.
available to get them up to the 3 million.
That number is listed on the slide.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I didn't know that I saw the number, I didn't know that that's exactly what it meant, even though that's what it says, so.
It's a lot of numbers on the slide, so apologies.
It's interesting that there's a penny difference between them.
If I assume for a moment, that, if I assume for a moment presumptuously that we do the same today, that would, reduce this $3.6 million down to, 1.3 million or so. But items C through O on this agenda item, with the exception of the ones that have taken themselves out, I think there's 4 of them, all have what I'll refer to as upside down committee votes. And so this is question number 2. In other words, well, not C.
Not C.
No,
That's
C
correct.
was,
Not
oh,
C.
1 disapprove and
But
7
the
approved.
rest of them, okay, so D through O are all upside down with committee approval. I did not unfortunately have the time to go through and re-familiarize myself with every single one of these prior to today's meeting, and that's my fault. But I'm wondering if there's a concise way, taken as a group, that to describe whether or not the committee votes were influenced in any way by the fact that there was no money left by the time they got to consideration of these projects. So we saw that in the most recent round a little bit.
Yes.
So,
Go ahead.
so your question would be if the timing of when these were voted on by the committee was closer to the end when funds got tight versus, we could,
And
yeah.
if the answer is it's impossible to tell, that's fine.
I mean, they all went at different phases. I think we did include when they were presented to the committee on the tabs for each, but they are all gonna be different, certainly. And there certainly were probably some that were at the very end.
Okay, so there's nothing I'm interpreting your answer to be, there's nothing conclusive that would indicate that these votes were upside down because of, in large part to the fact that the committee was running out of money to award. So that being the case, I for one am a little bit uncomfortable with distributing $1 million or more to projects like that. So then the question would become for me, well, what else then can we do with this funding, given the deadline? So a couple of possibilities come to mind. I'm sure other people have thought of this as well. We heard earlier today that during the budget discussion that there may be things that will increase the cost of administering this account and so forth. So maybe there needs to be some discussion or consideration, maybe not today, maybe it needs to come back, to use some of this $200 million for overhead costs, staff costs, consulting, anything like that. I do not know how much I know some, but I don't recall what the amount was. I think it was relatively modest. That was allocated from the original 200 million for that purpose, but I think it's probably appropriate. The fact that we're doing this today is an indicator that we ought to consider an infusion of some funding to overhead costs, regardless of the fact that the budget may be on budget or under running by a little bit. That's not what counts. What counts is how much effort is this organization expending on these sessions. I also, even though this is maybe a nightmare for us, in acknowledging the funding timeline on this particular bucket of money, we potentially have some, I'll call it, more worthy projects on the waiting list on the second round that we might want to consider, rather than just concluding that, well, the only thing we can do to this is apply it to this list of tabled projects, regardless of their merit.
So, any additional comments?
Mr. Kim, if I may just respond quickly to Mr. Cook. Point is well taken, specifically about admin costs. I would caution against the distinction between round 1 and round 2, because we did issue separate notices of financing availability under those rounds. We treated them as separately. We did not consider these tabled applications in comparison to the applications submitted in round 2. I do caution against that, but I think your point about being potentially creative in admin costs or other ways to allocate these funds is well taken, and we can definitely explore those options.
Yep.
So thank you for the answer. So then with respect to reallocating funds to round 2, I appreciate that. But I would say that it may be, as distasteful as it seems, necessary to leave some monies unspent out of this bucket rather than award them to a marginally, a project with a marginal amount of merit or utility.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Beckett.
So in that vein, if you take A, B, and C.
Yep.
And add them together, it's 3,035,000 roughly.
Yep.
Which leaves roughly 600,000 in the pot.
Yep. Seems very, very convenient.
I have one question. B, there was 5 disapprovals and 2 approvals. Why does it get such a high ranking?
Well,
If you,
go ahead.
We did put the Oro Valley and Marana at the top of the list because in previous times when this has occurred, those were the projects selected to reobligate funds to. But because those projects could not absorb all of the costs, we added the rest of the
So
projects.
is that clear? So basically,
Yeah.
those two
Yeah.
projects were the buffer from
Yeah.
the beginning.
Yeah.
And what's happening is that we've overwhelmed the buffer, so we've got to make it bigger.
yeah,
Oh, that
okay,
makes
but,
sense.
but because there was 5, and I understand.
Yeah. No, it's, but that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have lots of different options available here. We have, and again, I'm going to note that on a global basis, we are talking about sort of less than 2% of the funds, right? So let's just make sure that, everybody understands that we are just trying to make sure we're being as efficient as possible with every last penny, even if the pennies in this case are billions of dollars. But we have a certain amounts that we have basically come back to us. We had put in place some plans, these two A and B projects, to basically absorb any overages. We actually have even more than those, so now we have to find another. If we don't obligate the money, what happens to it?
It returns to federal treasury. Or returns to governor's office. And then they determine if they can reobligate it.
I see. Okay. Allocated by when? Allocated by when? It's a good question. Next one.
Just to tell you, General
Let's
Counsel.
turn over to him.
It's ARPA question. I can do it. So the guidance from the Treasury would indicate that once the funds were already obligated, they could be, once the funds were obligated from the governor's office to us, we could then reallocate it amongst our program. I have not done any research on what the governor's office's ability to reobligate those funds would be. So we'd have to communicate with them on whether or not they would have any authority to reobligate to a different program or whether or not they would be forced to return it back to the Treasury.
Tim? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 2 quick comments. One is, Mr. Lunt brought up the voting on item B, which is the town of Marana. That, as my recollection is, that is one of the rare circumstances where that one got a full board discussion before it was awarded. And it's one of the rare times where we actually, as a board, took the opposite position of the committee. So whereas everything below that never got to that point where the board would have had a discussion about the merits, yes or no versus the committee. So I think that's why the number B looks opposite of what the committee said. It is indeed the case from what I recall. And then the other one is, since we're either directly discussing item C, I just want to declare my conflict of interest on item C before we go too much further.
Thank you very much. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we do have A and B were the ones that we already had as buffer. We need to allocate a little bit more. And frankly, what we've done, staff has done, is basically just put the one that was on the bubble, the closest to being approved. That one is another 700,000. Do I hear any motions as to how to proceed?
Yeah.
Mr. Beckham.
I'd like.
Oh,
to-
I'm sorry. One second. We have, go ahead, and then we'll go to Sue next.
Go ahead and do Sue, and then I'll make my motion.
There you go. Okay, Sue, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood. I heard some mention that Marana wasn't sure if they could expend the money in time. Do we have any more to illuminate on that? Just wanted to see if there's a little more on that.
So they did indicate just some concerns with the spending deadline, but we could always ask the applicant, the grantee representative to expand more on that. They
I
did
I
not
just
give
want to
us-
make sure if we go through this rigmarole, there's money that can be spent.
Yes. Yeah.
At this point in time, are there significant doubts as to their ability? It's like a little bit of question marks sometimes, but like, do we have like specific and real notions that there's jeopardy to that?
I don't think real notions that there's jeopardy. I think it's, the project is moving forward and I think they would do everything in their power to make it work. But definitely
Okay.
if you want
Let's
to hear
keep,
from
let's
them.
keep tabs on that, but
Yeah.
at the moment, let's just go with the best information that we have. Thank you, Sue. Any additional comments?
No, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Okay,
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, whether procedurally I'm correct or not, and with how it works with Tim, I'm not sure. But my motion is to approve A, B, and C, which is WC 4-194-2024, WC 5-214-2024, WC 6-256-2024 in the amount shown, $1,157,536.97 on the first, $1,157,536.98 on the second, and $720.20 on the third. And to approve, and my motion is to approve those three, which would then leave roughly 604,000 left that we would wait and make a decision on later.
Hearing a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Buchanan Davis with the seconds.
And just a comment from general counsel, if you keep that package with all three, Tim, you should abstain from voting from that package. If you'd like to separate them, you can do two separate motions. But if they're included as a package, Tim would need to abstain from that package vote.
And that's fine with me.
Which is fine with you? There was two options there.
Keeping them together and me abstaining from the full vote is fine with me.
Thank you. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Tomier. And thank you to the rest of the board. Very well done. Okay, let's see. We now move to agenda item
14.
14.
Public.
Call to the public. This is the time for any additional public comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Excuse me.
We still have additional funds after that.
The motion was to leave those on the table till later.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I missed that.
No, thanks for keeping us.
Yes, no rest for the weary. You will have another
Just because-
$600,000 to figure out what
Yes,
to do with.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Just because I'm a numbers person,
Yeah.
if I could just read into the record, the amount remaining is 608,428.46.
So noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There you go. We have very good minds making sure that we are down to the penny on this stuff. I love it. Call to the public. This is the time for any additional public comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Have you received any requests for public comments?
Mr. Chairman, we have in person Jeff Breeze and or Kim Walmsley representing CEI Engineering.
Ms. Breeze and or Ms. Walmsley, if you would like to, if you were here and would like to speak?
No one online.
Okay. This is not here?
That's now.
All right. Okay, so I have a pair of announcements that will certainly impact the upcoming agenda. So I'll take the chairman's prerogative and make them now. It is with mixed feelings that it falls to me to announce that this will be the last board meeting for two of our illustrious members, Richard Lunt and Sue Montgomery. I'd like to take this opportunity to share a few words about Richard and Sue and to express my thanks for their service. When Richard describes himself, you'll probably hear words like just a farm boy, or my personal favorite, low-tech redneck. But that humble persona belies the deep intellect, insight, and innovation that Richard brings to everything that he does. He certainly lived out that philosophy as a member of the WIFA board, where he was a relentless advocate for agriculture and rural Arizona's water users.
Tim.
There you go. Check out that hat. It's a little bit of a tribute for you, sir.
Thank you, Sue.
I've frequently seen Richard quoted for his life's philosophy. Instead of complaining about the way things are, what are you doing to make things better? And that's not just a saying. He lived a life dedicated to making a positive difference in his community, county, and state. Just to list a few of his accomplishments, served 16 years as a Greenlee County Supervisor, where he also served in leadership for the County Supervisors Association of Arizona. Named the 2020 Eastern Arizona Counties Supervisor of the Year, spent 26 years as a Scoutmaster for the Boy Scouts of America, and is a lifelong member and community volunteer for 4-H and Future Farmers of America. Richard, as many of you may know, recently retired from his position as county supervisor and is moving on to his post-public service life. But to no one's surprise, he's moving from one form of service to yet another. He and his wife of 50-plus years, Colleen, have been called to a mission of the Church of Latter-day Saints in Washington, D.C., and they will relocate there to begin their service in the coming weeks. Richard, we will miss your humor, camaraderie, and your perspective. We cannot say enough how much we appreciate all that you have done for WIFA and for this state. As a small token of our gratitude, we have a few things to leave you with. First, this is a plaque commemorating your time on the board. And
Here.
second, we have a flag.
I'll hand it so you can keep it. Am I?
Okay. That's right. We didn't rehearse this, as you guys can see, so. All right. We cannot say enough how much we appreciate all that you have done for WIFA and for this state. As a small token of our gratitude, we have a few things to leave with you. First is a plaque commemorating your time on the board. And second, we have a flag that was flown over the Arizona Capitol in your honor, celebrating your contributions to the state of Arizona. Sue Montgomery. In this.
Point of order.
Would you like to say a few words, Richard? Please, go ahead.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for the recognition. It's been a pleasure to work with this board. This board is made up of 6 outstanding individuals that have put state needs over personal needs, and I appreciate that. We have been able to, even though sometimes we disagree, that's all it was. And the level of expertise that individuals on this board exhibit is just astonishing, and it's truly been a pleasure to serve. I respect each and every one of you, and know that you're always welcome in my home. Thank you.
We miss you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. We have a second one. Sue Montgomery. In this state, you cannot really talk about securing Arizona's water future without talking about Sue Montgomery. When she was appointed to this board, then Minority Leader Rebecca Rios said this: Sue's many years of experience in dealing with the technical aspects of water policy, quality, and infrastructure development have shaped her ability to direct the use of taxpayer dollars with the utmost sense of responsibility. Sue lived up to that reputation in every way during her time on the WIFA board. She was instrumental in helping WIFA revise its environmental review process to ensure proper and effective review of our projects. She made critical contributions to our long-term augmentation process, making sure that WIFA developed a process by which environmental concerns are at the forefront. Her deep knowledge of water systems in Arizona helped inform some of our utmost critical funding decisions, and we know that WIFA's resources were better utilized because of her input. Familial obligations have necessitated Sue's relocation from Gila County to Pima County, meaning that she no longer meets the statutory criteria for her position on the board. While she is, out of necessity, stepping down from her role at WIFA, she isn't stepping out of her other professional pursuits. We are confident that we will have the privilege of continuing to work with her in different contexts. Sue, you are a skilled attorney, a brilliant strategic mind, an authentic champion for underserved tribal communities and the environment, but more to the point, you are a wonderful person. We will greatly miss having you as a board member, but we hope you know that you can't get rid of us this easily. You're not here with us in person, so we'll work on getting these gifts to you. But we also have a plaque and a flag for you to commemorate the work you have done here and serve as a token of our everlasting thanks. Thank you so much, Sue.
Yeah, thank you. And it has been an honor. And I will note Tim's hat is quite lovely as well. Thank you, Tim. It has been an honor, and I've learned an immense amount from every one of you, every board member and the WIFA staff. And everybody's put up with my questions where I focused on one thing over another, and I'm grateful for that. And I think we've done good work, and this has been an amazing board. So I'm really, it's hard to step down, but I do have to take care of my father and do some things that I had hoped to get to put off a little later in life. But here we are. So thank you.
All best wishes for the recovery of your father. We hope that goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything. Okay. Anything else on this?
I mean, just having to follow that is great, but I will just note a couple of things that you did discuss with us as a board. One of them is continued follow-up on the data migration project and making sure we're keeping you all in the loop on that. And as it progresses, other than that, I don't have anything specific for future agendas, other than to note, we thought today was a marathon. Buckle up, June will be one too. We've got fiscal year budget, we've got board elections, we've got a lot to go over in June. So just so you know, we'll be putting you to work as per usual.
Good. This has been, Mr. Cook, yes?
Another item on, agenda item 15.
Yes, please.
Okay, we already mentioned this, but I would like to see the staff bring back a recommendation to us on the appropriate earmark, for want of a better word, on the remaining conservation grant fund monies for admin cost support at the next meeting if possible.
Ms. Jones, if you weren't already feeling the pressure, there you go. It's official.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
along those lines, that jogs something for me. I keep thinking about this, the city of Douglas, item. I would love if staff could come back maybe with some options there, whether it's different funds or revisit, I'd like to know how Douglas responded to the board not, changing the scope, and, maybe there's something we can do there.
So
or
noted.
action.
I think that's fair. That was a tough call. And so let's see what we can do in order to get the best of both worlds. All right. Good meeting today, guys. Thank you all very, very much. It was, this was my first time chairing the meeting, so hopefully I didn't mess things up too badly. That being said, we've got a lot of stuff coming up in the next few weeks and months. We've got some big shoes to fill, right, in the form of the departures from Richard and Sue. Some really, really important decisions to make, as well as a long-term water augmentation project to deliver, which will be critical for the future of water in our state. So unless there's anything else, I will make do we have a motion to adjourn? I don't need one? Okay, good. All right, then I will adjourn. It is now 12:36. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.